I knew I would eventually get to the breakdown for Christopher Nolan's 2000 psychological thriller, Memento. When I started this channel to highlight the 29-point story structure, storytelling unicorns like this one needed to be addressed. Pulp fiction will be along eventually, but I went with backward storytelling first. And I'll be damned, it actually holds up. I went into this expecting to receive my first exception to the rule, but ended up surprising myself instead. The timestamps for every sequence can be found in the comment section for your viewing pleasure. Now, let's begin. We start, as always, with a focus on our protagonist, specifically their personality, their inner conflict, and their situation. The ending plays out as we witness Teddy's execution. Then Leonard shows us what it's like to experience a reset. Teddy re-enters the story again, a chaotic partner at best, and we see how Leonard retains information through a reset. Next, we examine where, why, and how our protagonist exists in their world, with a focus on why they don't quite fit in. Leonard has a narrow view of reality, preoccupied with his immediate surroundings, but tries to operate in normal society with notes and tattoos, and he's unable to tell friends from strangers without a system. Then a brief event happens, one that's never happened before. It's destined to lead all the characters away from their status quo. We catch up with Leonard's previous beginning, introducing the concept of following brief yet full nuggets of time in reverse order, which leads us to examine the effect of that something new to the status quo, specifically what's different now and what remains the same. Leonard expands on his note-taking process, trusting his handwriting above all else. Then he resets somewhere new. Well, to us this time, it's always new to him. He immediately catches up with himself again, and a note from someone else directs him to Natalie. We move along to the discovery that things are less than ideal, or else we explore how badly things are. Both scenarios are common. The myriad of tattoos hint that the investigation has been going on for a long time, and they reveal the depth of evil inflicted upon his wife. A flashback shows Leonard talking to a mysterious person on the phone, and we spy a previously crossed out note on Natalie's picture. Next, our characters dedicate their effort to a specified goal, and this is always narrower in scope than what the third act will demand. Leonard feels his way through a conversation with a stranger, from his perspective. Then he seeks revenge, even though he admits he might not remember it, and he places all his faith in the final memories he has of his wife. Then we run through a brief checklist of the main story elements that we can expect during this journey. The revisit of a scene as a reset catches up with itself, the history of his adapted note-taking process, Teddy's gravity in Leonard's day-to-day, and of course, the investigation into John G. Which brings us to the brief event that launches our characters into the wild jungle of the second act. It's also called the oh shit moment. Despite his inability to make new memories, he perfectly understands that his life is forever ruined. Ah, shit. We follow our characters as they discover the new rules and expectations of their journey. These are always distinct to the narrative at play. Burt accidentally reveals one way that people take advantage of his condition, and Sammy's insurance case is explained, specifically Leonard's investigation into it. Next, our characters showcase their ability to grow and progress, and this is typically an external or physical beat rather than internal or emotional. Leonard resets again, but this time beside an ally, and discovers the quid pro quo with Natalie, meaning this is not charity work. Then Sammy undergoes testing to prove his condition is real. Then our characters face legitimate and understandable reasons to deviate from their stated convictions, agendas, or desires. Leonard questions Natalie about Dodd, with suspicion raging, and he's not vibing with the feel of the situation at all, knowing instinctively that something is off. Then it's revealed that he'll never process the full weight of his guilt, and he'll never heal. We endure the anxiety as our characters face an escalation of problems and complications. It's revealed that Leonard denied Sammy's claim, suggesting his newfound condition is possibly karma. Then he finds a surprise captive tied up in his closet and escorts him out into public, increasing the risk of getting caught. Next, our characters evolve internally or emotionally, and they do this by using elements of the plot or story which they've gathered and learned so far. Sammy's wife deteriorates from doubt and uncertainty. Leonard copes with an unexpected twist following an abrupt reset, and reveals that he trusts the phone call as he sets up a new tattoo. Then our journey-weary characters come to terms with their ongoing struggles. Moments and elements of the first act are used to gauge their progress. Leonard resets in mid-scene, similar to his Act 1 intro, then arrives at Dodd's motel for the first time, like in Act 1, but not his motel. And the prep work for a tattoo seen in Act 1 confirms that these black and white scenes were from much earlier than the resets we've seen, which results in a brief event that strikes at our protagonist's core conflict. We discover that Leonard does not know, nor can he know, who he's been confessing to prior to his no telephone rule. We witness his own conditioning in action, and there's no turning back from here. We receive needed answers alongside our characters, which relate to both their external journeys and their internal conflicts. Leonard burns his wife's possessions to force himself to let go, but can't remember to forget about her. And it's revealed that he only partook in this investigation because the police did not. Next, our characters complete their narrow scope objective, yet discover that their victory is shallow or altogether meaningless and must complete a wider scope objective. We witness the origin of this hotel, but it begs the eternal question of where he just came from. Leonard tries to kickstart his memories by revisiting that night, but there is no cure for his condition. He navigates company policy per his job, but ends up pushing Sandy's wife to desperate measures. Then our characters face an existential conflict that wounds their sense of self and identity or their physical journey. Teddy reveals that his wife was already avenged and Natalie is just using him, and he manages to shake Leonard's confidence by asking after this new car and suit. Then the origin of the scratched out note is revealed, pushing Leonard into the brand new direction we've been watching in reverse. We celebrate with our protagonist in light of an undeniable win, which is always related to the rebirth in some way. Leonard helps the damsel in distress, proving the righteousness of his moral code, and he finally wises up to the danger of talking on the phone, which he does manage to hold on to through the resets we see. Next, our characters suffer a grand loss, and this is always connected to their newfound inability to quit their journey. Natalie reveals her treachery, a peek at her true character that he can never remember. Then he loses control and punches her. He can't find a pen to make a note so he can remember her treachery, and the mystery caller might have been a cop all along. Then we experience a thematic freefall, as the main story elements are ramped up and thrown into upheaval. A flashback retells the murder of his wife and fateful blow to Leonard's head, and the details of the cover-up are revealed by the sinister name of John G. We finally witness the origin of the all-important Natalie photo. Then Leonard sits and watches commercials, a sly hint to the Sammy Jankis connection, which forces us into a brief event that robs our protagonist of seemingly any hope of success. Leonard stares at photo evidence that he may have indeed already avenged his wife, throwing everything into disarray. We watch our characters realize that they cannot return to their first act selves, and they turn to face the wider scope objective. Natalie proves for herself that he can be manipulated without him knowing, and Leonard melts down with paranoia, showing us what it looks like when he figures out the manipulation. Then Natalie inquires about the whereabouts of Jimmy G. Next, our characters use the major swings of the story and their personal journeys to move towards the climax. Sammy has his condition tested again, but with his wife in the balance. Leonard admits that he misjudged Sammy because he didn't understand. Then Teddy pushes Leonard out of town, for the first time, but also for like the 20th time. Then the final confrontation plays out between our protagonist and characters against the antagonistic force. Leonard packs up his old room, preparing for the kill, and it's revealed that Teddy is a cop as well as his handler. He kills the target and flashes back to his wife, then hears the whisper of Sammy calling back from his previous life, which culminates in a brief moment where our protagonist finally, and oftentimes metaphorically, overcomes their place in the Act 1 status quo. Leonard fakes his memory loss to trick Teddy into revealing a crucial lie. We experience the direct aftermath of the climax. This can give our characters a moment to reflect on the situation, or else wind down the action with a coda. Teddy confesses to the angle, using Leonard to achieve his payday. Then he connects Leonard with Sammy, revealing how unreliable his previous memories are too. Next, we touch base with additional characters, typically to contrast them against the new status quo. The original guilty murderer was killed over a year ago, and Leonard has become, since then, a serial killer of John G's. Then we conclude with a tight focus on our protagonist, specifically to contrast them against how we met them at the opening. Leonard turns himself against his handler, righting that wrong, and convinces himself that he'll be just fine on his own. Then he starts the investigation anew again, starting his path to killing Teddy. And there you have it. Christopher Nolan's 2000 psychological thriller Memento adheres perfectly to the 29-point story structure every step of the way, and it perfectly illustrates how the emotional beats of the story need to be in place no matter the order of the scenes. Now let's move on from a righteous serial killer going rogue to a righteous superhero going rogue with my deep dive into the return of Bucky Barnes. Join me next time for Anthony Russo's 2014 MCU expansion, Captain America: The Winter Soldier. As always, thank you so much for your time. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this content, and consider commenting on and sharing this video to help the channel find its audience. Take care of yourselves out there, and I'll talk at you next time.